Hey, howdy ho, and season's greetings. Welcome back to Destination, your place for all things Destino. I'm your host, Poteet, and today I am joined by the actual hosts for season 17, Monarchy of Fans versus Favorites. So we have four of our phenomenal team here. So let's do some introductions. First off, the prettiest or pettiest host. Sorry, I misread it. Pettiest host, Shane. How you doing, Shane?
Shut up, Poti. I am amazing. I am the prettiest host, and I'm happy to be here. Very excited that I hopped on at the right time. Otherwise, I would have missed it.
That sounded pretty petty. In addition, we have the Hawosty, Z, the only non-admin here. How you doing, Z?
You know what? I'm doing great. We're doing great over here.
Glad to
Yeah, can you hear that? Can you hear that rasp in my voice? No, I have
Not really,
COVID.
actually. You're coming through pretty clear.
Fantastic. No, I have COVID, but I'm doing fine. I'm on medication, so I'm here.
Fantastic. Next up, we have Megan. How are you doing, Megan?
I'm having a hell of a week, and it's Monday. So I'm currently fulfilling my name's legacy and having a very legal smoke sesh. I'm in Colorado, very legal.
So, just to be clear, you're having a hell of a Monday.
Say that again?
You're having a hell of a Monday.
Yes, it's been a hell of a Monday. I had therapy today, and it was very needed.
Fantastic. All right, and last up, we have the one, the only Foe, who will not be speaking, but if Foe has any thoughts, they'll be dropping them in chat for me to read out loud. So welcome, Foe. And 1 second, I'm just grabbing a link.
Foe said they're doing amazing.
Foe said they're doing
Foe
amazing.
said,
Hi.
Hi, I'm doing amazing.
Well, actually, the hi came after the I am doing amazing. I just want to be pedantic here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, first things first, we are going to begin just by... Shane is petty. I agree, Foe. So we're going to begin by talking about the preseason. So first off, Mauna Kea, Hawaii. What was sort of the decision to go here? Where did you all come up with the concept to do this season in particular?
I'm chewing chocolate, so somebody else can answer.
I mean, because when we started planning out this season, we were trying to go for something that was a little bit more, if I remember correctly, more kind of location diversity in terms of the biome. Looking at terms of okay, what are the different places we've been? Where have we've been in Asia for the past couple of seasons? Maybe let's go somewhere else. Let's go somewhere with Let's go for a mountainy theme this season. There was a whole doc on it, and trying to really look at past seasons and do something original. And Flair, oh yeah, Flair, very much was part of the decision making for that.
All right. And so obviously, fans versus favorites in the works longer than most of you have probably been on the team. But sort of what was the thought process to the casting of it all? How many people were you really looking at for favorites, and what was sort of your goal in casting favorites this season?
Honestly, the season was, it was tough narrowing down the favorites. It really was. And I think our goal as a team was to try and have good diversity in terms of age, race, gender, and season diversity as well. I think that was one of them that we tried to focus on. Unfortunately, it couldn't happen. We tried to have at least one person from a different season, but that kind of fell through just based on availability and stuff. But overall, it really was, in terms of the favorites, just picking up people we felt who really were eager to play again, to come into Destino, fight for a second chance, and play the game hard. And I think we've seen that from a couple of them already. But I also think it's a little early to tell how they're all going to play, just because I think so many of them might be a little too nervous to, jump into the strategy portion of the game.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's hard because it's like so many of these people are favorites, like people that are coming back. They've only played one time, so this is everybody's they're all favorites, but they're also like second chancers. So there really comes with that this level of like anxiety of like you don't want to mess up your second chance. And like really, we had a really long list. We had to cut down the list of people we wanted on the cast so many times. Like the amount of we listed all the people that we could have potentially had, and then we cut it down in terms of like interest. Reached out to people, and then we got who we had, who reached out back to us, had them fill out an application form, and then from there we even had to like cut down further to get to a list of 10. So I feel really good about what we have, but it was I think we had we reached out, I think, or we at least considered reaching out to at least one person from every single season.
Yeah, we had at least 1 to 3, maybe even 4 people per season.
Mm-hmm.
And then we worked out that list. We kind of narrowed down who we wanted to see from each season specifically, and then kind of narrowed down, trying to cut it down to at least 2 people per season, just so it wasn't a little overwhelming. And honestly, that idea really did come from Flair, based on the recent season of Maine, season 75, where they had half fraternities. And I think they realized reaching out to too many people made it very difficult to narrow down, and felt really bad about having to cut like 80% of the people that they had reached out to. Whereas for us, I'd say we reached out maybe to like 30 people for 10 spots, and we had maybe 20 people interested. And then by the end of casting, I think maybe we had 17, maybe 18 people who did their application, were excited to play, but we had to cut out like 8 people total at the end. So it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but it still was very difficult to narrow down just to those top 10.
Too. The fates, there were a lot of options there, but there was also a lot of options for the fans too. So we had to cut down on a lot of really good acts there, and this cast could have easily been a cast of like 30 if we had wanted it to be, with how many good faves and fans there were.
Could it have been a cast of 35 with how many fans and favorites there were?
Probably.
Interesting.
That's such a specific number.
What about 40?
That's pushing it.
Okay,
yeah.
39. 39 is the soft spot then.
39.
Oh, 39 is not a good number for Survivor.
3 tries of 13.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, so awesome that we have a very competitive casting pool. You always love to hear that and see that as a hosting team. So I'm actually curious then, is there, obviously, we don't want to reveal any fans that we might want to get back into the future that applied for this season, but out of the favorite pool, is there any 1 or 2 people that you particularly feel that you missed out by not being able to get, whether they were unavailable or alternate or whatever status they ended up being? Is there anybody in particular that really stands out as, I really wish they could have been on this season?
You're talking about favorites, right? Like returnees?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think there was a handful of people that I was excited to potentially have back on Destino, but obviously life comes first, and there's a lot of people that were too busy with their own personal lives to be able to commit to this season, and I don't fault them whatsoever. And it's like we have so much planned for Destino, so I know there's no loss in not having them on this season, because we have a great group of favorites that are back this season. But yeah, absolutely. Like Dinah from Wisman's Wood, I think, was one person that a lot of us were very excited to potentially have back this season, but they're just not very active anymore in the community, and whatever reasons it may be, it sucks that we couldn't get them on the season, but they are a great player, and we would eventually love to have them back on a season in the future. Who knows when or what type of season, but I think Dinah is one of those people we missed out on. Conch was also someone I think all of us were very, very excited to potentially have on the cast. But they were also very busy. And I think for us, we had to factor in a lot of different type of things when casting the season, and I think one of those things was pre-game connection. So when you have interest from someone like Zephyr, but then also you have Conch, and you know they're best friends, you know you can't cast both of them together. And we had a similar situation where you had someone like Chroma, who was part of our casting process, but putting them on the same cast as someone like SPKT, and they're best friends, and they host, and they do everything together, you know. We tried to avoid stuff like that. So yeah, there were people we missed out on, and I know there's plenty of room in the future for a lot of these people on Destino, so I'm not too worried about it.
I feel too there were some people, because we definitely had that discussion of like who should be on, do they fit on a fans versus favorite season versus all stars or second chance, and because I remember like when we were trying to go through this, because Yushane pulled like a list of like all the favorites, or like the top, for the ones that were on Facebook, I think like the top 4 or 5 vote getters or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you had all the Discord ones ranked in terms of that, and we sort of went from there. But there were a lot of people that we wanted to have on necessarily, like Zoe was a part of the casting process, and we ended up not casting Zoe for reasons of like, you know, may not necessarily be a fit as a favorite when you might be like an all-star, where other people might really be like a favorite, but they might not be like an all-star, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it was like trying to find that balance.
Absolutely. So, I think that's a pretty good spot about the casting process. So now I'd like to jump over to the twists of the season. So obviously we have one big twist that's already been coming up and has impacted this first round in a massive way. Summits. So what are summits? And just I'd love to hear more about what the plans are, what the direction is with those, if you have anything to share on that front.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny enough, but the summits were originally Z's idea at the start of the planning process. He pitched it, and I am typically not a fan of taking twists that are being
I'd love to
used
hear more about what the
in
plans
the new modern
is
era of Survivor,
Because
and just pulling it into your season because it feels very
for all things
copycat.
Destino. I'm your host,
But
Poteet,
I feel like
and today
when the sparks started clicking with the idea of doing the summits and the different variations we could do instead of just the what's the dilemma? I forget what it's called. Prisoner's dilemma, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Instead of just doing something like that, you know, changing it up a little bit. And obviously, like you mentioned, Poteet, the summits have really impacted the game already and has thrown a whole curveball to this cast, and I think that's really made it worth it already for me, is to see the effect that these people are capable of causing with these twists and utilizing the twist to their advantage. Maybe not have been the intention behind some of the things that happened at the summit visit between BT and Nat, but it happened and it caused a lot of chaos, and it saved BT's tribe, the fans' tribe, from going to tribal council first. So, you know, it's very interesting to see how it's playing out already, and I'm excited to see what happens in these upcoming rounds, because we have 5 summits planned. I know this gets released after the season, so I'm okay with talking openly about it. Well, before I dive into it, does anybody else want to leave their thoughts on it?
I'm gonna be so real. I missed that last question. I had to step out for a second.
You're good. I was just saying, did you want to talk about your thoughts on the twist before I kind of dive into what we're doing with that?
Oh yeah. I mean, you kind of covered a lot. I'm a big. I personally love cross tribal twists. I think it adds a lot of complexity into the game. And I think you definitely see that with BT and Nat, in terms of that thing where it's you know, their relationship is the mother I never had, the sister I've always wanted, kind of. It's very entertaining watching them interact, and that's something you might not necessarily have been able to get without that. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see how things are going to go, and with the way, again, Shane, you pointed out that this was released after the season, so I'm okay saying this as well. That it's different every single time of what people are maybe able to get when they go to the summit. So, and these different prisoners' dilemmas or these different twists that happen every different round of the summit. So it's interesting. I'm going to be curious to see when people come back and they have a different story than BT and Nat. Is that going to affect BT and Nat's game? Is that going to affect whoever goes next round in a way people don't trust them because it's like, oh, you're saying something completely different? Or are people just going to completely go along with it and realize, oh, this is a completely new twist? But I think it adds a level of paranoia to the game, which is fun to watch.
It's always good to fuck with your contestants.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think the thing that makes me so excited is, the first summit was going to be the most impactful, and it really did impact the game, and maybe redirects the whole decision. I mean, not the decision, but the whole outcome of this game, because I don't think we were expecting the favorites to go to Tribal Council at the start of the game. I felt like they came in with an advantage, knowing how to play these challenges, knowing one another, how to work together. They've done this before. They have the right idea of what to do. But I mean, to be fair, like they should have won this challenge. Like they really should have won this challenge. But based on how it was set up, being in duos, it really worked against them. And also having BT earn a challenge advantage, and that being an extra point, and being lucky enough to pick the duo to be the tiebreaker, and Maddie and Gavin, and Maddie winning by like 200 points. It's just it's insane how it worked out. But the upcoming summits are fun. They're all different in different ways. So our second summit is just a toned down version of the first one. They literally can either pick between an idol clue for themselves or a half extra vote. And that's essentially it. They have 24 hours to talk, get to know one another, exchange info. And I think that point of having 24 hours for just one individual from the opposing tribe is super helpful. BT and Nat utilize that to their advantage. They gain so much knowledge and work together and are planning to work together. So if the upcoming people visiting the summit can do that same thing and coordinate how to work together, save each other, it's making the most out of the twist, which is what I love to see players do. However, the third summit is a bit different. They essentially are all going to Tribal Council. It's a double Tribal Council. But the two people that are going to the summit can decide if they want to either go... essentially, for the third summit... Sorry, let me re-explain this. Both tribes go to Tribal Council. It's a double. However, the two people that go to the summit are going to learn that they're going to one another's tribes, Tribal Councils. So, say... we'll use Nat and BT, for example. Since they've already visited, say they attend the third summit, BT would then go to the favorites Tribal Council, and Nat would go to the fans Tribal Council. However, they do have a decision. They can either go into that Tribal Council automatically immune, but obviously still having to vote one of the opposing tribe members off, or they can take a risk and go into that Tribal Council not immune, and if they do survive, they earn a half of an idol. So two idol halves come together, obviously, to form one idol. So it really is, do they take that risk? Do they feel safe enough? Does the person that they're currently at the summit with tell them who to work with or not to work with, or who to target and relay information? There's a lot of different scenarios that could come from this summit, and so it's going to be cool to see. And then we have a swap, and the next people that go to the summit are going to be captains picking the new tribes, and a third person is going to be drawn randomly. Those three will pick new tribes, and that's essentially it. I don't know how much else to say off that one, so it's not as powerful, but I feel like they've kind of gotten less powerful as it goes on. Wait, what'd you say?
It could be more powerful, technically.
It could be, yeah, you never know. And then the last summit at Final 15 is essentially the two people from each tribe, so it's going to be 6 people total. They're literally just going to go to the summit and talk to each other. That's all they're going to have. No advantages, no twists, nothing. They're just going to have the opportunity to exchange information and just be a general talk. I feel like that's going to throw a lot of people off because they're going to expect something, and everybody else back at camp is going to expect something. So it'll be interesting to see how they play off. The summit being literally nothing besides having 24 hours to talk with 6 people. It'll be interesting. So that's the summit twist. It's a lot. It's very unique in its own way compared to new modern era Survivor, but it's going to be fun to watch as we've already seen.
All right. So, out of curiosity, do you have any other twists sort of planned for this season? Or is this sort of the bulk of it is going to be the summit feature?
Yeah, I mean, summits are our main twist. We have the Mauna twist as well, which I guess we could tell you what it does if we wanted to. I don't know if we should.
I mean,
Yeah.
my assumption was sort of fire tokens, so I'm curious to see if I was spot on with that or not.
I mean,
Okay.
it's less of a thing where it's kind of like, because I feel like the assumption with it is that you can sort of think like, oh, this is like, Survivor economy, but we didn't want to do that again because we had done that had been done before multiple times, if I remember right.
Mhm.
So because we wanted to do something that was like a little bit more low key and I think less intensive, especially when we were doing the summits as well. So it is something where I think the suspense is going to keep on building throughout the season, and people are definitely, I don't know, I kind of hope people very much overthink what the Mana twist actually is, because I feel like that's part of the beauty of like the mystery with it, and I think that's something you have going on with this season of this. Hawaii has this really rich history and mythology tied to it, and I think that's kind of a vibe we wanted to bring to this season as well. So going with that Mana twist, I like the idea of the mystery going on through the season and people trying to figure out what it does and trying to play around this invisible like obstacle that they know it's there, but it's covered. You can't see what it is. You don't know what the Mana twist is ultimately going to be building up to. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how it plays out through the rest of the season.
And besides that, we have an exile for one person at the swap, and that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy besides that. The merge we wanted just to be a little less chaotic, and it's already fans versus favorites. We felt like that twist would be enough at the merge to cause some chaos, and that's where we left it. The pre-merge is all the chaos, so.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a little like Raja Ampot in that sense, where like you had like the chaotic pre-merge, and you led into a merge with very little in the way of twist by comparison.
Yeah, I feel like we've done that a lot in Destino. It's always a lot at the start, and so what I'm thinking is maybe we change it up and have it be a little less relaxed at the start, or a little more relaxed at the start, and a little more chaotic at the merge. We'll see.
We'll see.
It's kind of hard because, especially like something with orgs, where it's sad, but it happens. Where a lot of people like you have like 3 or 4 people that do go inactive at the start of the season, and that's just kind of how it goes. So I like the idea of having like something like really big happening at the merge, but I feel like when you hit the merge as well, you have where you're kind of at a point where you have all these players that really have earned their spot there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and with the pre-merge, there's sometimes where it might be like more easier boots. So to have that kind of, I think like a chaotic twist, it sort of can put a spin on something where you have maybe a more boring kind of first couple, 3, 4 votes.
Fair, very fair.
Absolutely. All right then. So before we jump into this cast, is there anything else about twists, challenges, theme that you want to discuss?
Sorry, can you ask the question again?
Is there anything else about this season besides the cast? Twists, theme, challenges, process, planning, anything like that you want to discuss before we jump into the cast?
I don't know. I think this is one of those seasons that I've been most excited for in a hot minute on Destino. I think just the planning of everything, the color scheme, the graphics, the players' work on all of that has been fantastic, and Zia's helped quite a bit on that as well. And I've done a whole bunch of the graphics for like the little like voting things and random stuff. You know, it's cool to see it all coming together, and it's a great team. And so like I've just really appreciated the team that has been on this season and the work that we've put into building up to this point and in planning everything down to a T. It feels like it's all worked out and we have everything kind of settled. Obviously, there may be some hiccups here and there or some confusion here or there. It happens. It happens every time, but it feels so exciting and fresh that I'm very excited to see how the season plays out.
Awesome. But, I mean, all I'm hearing is that you're excited for the first season without Emma and myself.
Yeah, that's very true.
Thank God for that.
What did Fo say? Fo didn't say anything. Just kidding.
All right.
It's a bit sad.
So, with that said, are you all ready to begin discussing the cast in this first round that we have going on here?
Let's do it.
I'm not saying that, Fo. I'm not saying it. I like Tommy. Tommy's a nice gentleman.
Sad.
Fo's
you're
sad
sad you
because
don't
he
get
can't
to
host
host
with
with
me, but
Coach
they have to host with Tommy now. You did this to yourself, Fo. You did this to yourself. Alright, so let's begin by just jumping over to our fans tribe, Kanaka, which consists of BT, Jess, Kyle, Maddie, Marcus, Marissa, Paisley, Quimmy, Rob, and Sean. So, what are your first thoughts about this tribe? Let's just start from the casting point of view. Obviously, you were saying earlier the fans were a very difficult tribe to cast. So, obviously, these 10 were all standouts at some level during that planning process. So, what are your initial thoughts about all these individuals on this tribe?
I feel like all of them have such different personalities, and it felt like they would all just fit together beautifully. And I feel like we've seen that. I feel like they've all come together to work well together in the first challenge, but also just in terms of the connections that some of these people are building. Obviously, you're going to have people who are building better connections than others, specifically people like BT, Maddie, even Rob apparently is doing pretty well. I haven't heard a lot from Rob, but I've seen a lot of people talking about Rob being someone that they're putting in trust with. Same with Kyle, Marcus, Sean a bit, and Marissa. And I feel like the three people who have kind of like fallen to the bottom of the tribe currently are Jess, Paisley, and Quimmy. Paisley, I know, has stuff going on IRL, so it's a little bit more difficult for her to be as active. Quimmy really messed up in the challenge today, in the first challenge, so it's been interesting to see her try and recover from something like that. And Jess is just so sweet. They have been so fantastic and just kind of very excited to play the game, and she brings this excitement and joy. It's almost like the fan version of Cam. Like, Jess is just so excited, positive, spirited. I love that. And so I could see Jess and Cam clicking very well if they were to get together. However, my fear is Jess could become an easy target if they aren't able to kind of integrate themselves within the fans tribe sooner rather than later. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of where we're at right now within this newly formed fans tribe. Just the casting process overall was intense. There were a lot of familiar people, I think, also who in the community at least, that we're all kind of familiar with, that applied, and we had a lot of fresh faces this season. I think the only two people I really knew of from the fans tribe were BT and Maddie. Everybody else was new in my how do I phrase it? New in my circle of people that I knew. Like 8 of these people I had never
as much, yeah.
Yeah, 8 of these people that we cast never knew. Usually it's way more than that, or usually it's way less than that, and we're casting a lot of people that we know, but when I look back at the casting assessment, there were so many other people that I know, like, of the 40 people who applied, of newbies, I would say I knew maybe half of them. So it's kind of crazy we had to cut it down to top 10. We had 3 alternates, and like even the alternates, I only kind of knew one of them. So it was very interesting to see a lot of the people that we were kind of all familiar with in different ways not make it on the cast. And like, had it been a cast of 20 newbies, yeah, you would have seen a lot of familiar faces because they were all right there. But I think that maybe edged them out just a little bit from also having those pregame connections with a lot of these favorites that are returning.
That also makes it a little more interesting
Yeah,
from that point of view. Yeah, you go ahead, Z. All you.
Sorry, there was some movement connection there.
No worries.
No, I mean everything you said, Shane. It's like super spot on. No, it was. I can say Fo said this. I think every single one of us could like agree on this. This was like a gauntlet trying to cast this fans tribe because there were so many good applications that it was like, you know, we kind of had our pick of the litter in terms of like who we wanted, and we would have had a good set of people regardless. I feel bad for like Paisley and Quimmy, because like Quimmy just had wisdom tooth surgery, and Paisley has like had stuff going on, so their activity has kind of what is the word? Why can't I not think? Been not the it's dwindled. Thank you.
Gotcha.
And you can really see it in the way that other people talk about them. And then with the, you know, doing the wrong thing, it's kind of a miracle that, like, they came out on the other side of this with all 10 intact. I'm kind of shocked. But I really do love this fans tribe. I feel like it's a very good mix of personalities, like Shane said. And you have all these different, like, groups represented. You have people that are, you know, like teens. You have people that are in their 30s. You have people in their 20s. So, you know, it's a really good mix of people, and I think whereas the favorites are more well known, and a lot of them have like big personalities, or they're, you know, all people who are either like just really massive personalities or they're known within the community versus all these fans who, aside from BT and Maddie, aren't super known. But I think there's still people. I think there's still people to look out for on that tribe. I think they're all like capable of making it to the end. You know what I mean? You see that in the show, like on the actual show Survivor, where they had both seasons of fans versus favorites, and the favorites dominated. And I don't necessarily know if that's going to be the case this season. Especially when you have like someone that's such a chaotic force of nature as BT. Oh my god. On the fans tribe.
Well, we gotta talk about this.
You know,
we gotta talk about the cult.
Yeah, we gotta
explain the cult.
Oh my
god.
Oh god.
You want to do that, Shane? I don't know if I have the energy in me for that.
Oh god. Okay. BT wants to play chaotic, as we know. That's how he plays. Sorry, I'm also trying to work on giving somebody half an idol right now, so give me 2 seconds. But like, I will try to explain it while I talk.
Ooh.
I cannot. Who is this? Chris. Chris found half an idol, so that's great.
Oh, awesome. Yo, is it possible for Chris to get the other half?
Maybe so. She has to find it, but
we'll discuss that later.
Half an idol. So.
Yeah, we'll discuss that later.
Yeah, we shall.
Yeah. You're not gonna
so, in terms of BT wants to play chaotic. We all know how BT plays. He wants to form a group of newbies who are going to steamroll the competition. He wants to take out all of the favorites one by one, and he's already kind of started that process. He made the decision to take, at the summit, to take an extra point for his tribe in the challenge, which obviously helped out very much. And he wants to be in control just of everything. He wants to have all the idols. He wants to have all the advantages. He wants to idol out some of the favorites. He wants to work with this big group of this cult of newbies. And the cult that he has kind of formed together so far consists of himself, Maddie, Marcus, Marissa, and Rob. So those 5 have all come together to form the first alliance on the Kanaka tribe, called the Power 5. And it's the only alliance on the Kanaka tribe. And yeah, he essentially just wants to be the ringleader of the whole entire tribe. Clearly, it worked out at the start, getting voted to go to the summit, and he had all these people rallied around him. I think he got all of their votes, and then the rest of their tribe all voted randomly elsewhere. It was chaotic. It was like a 6-to-1 vote. But BT has pulled the numbers. He's playing a lot, very chaotic. He's I don't know how to even describe it. He's like pranking people to try and create good banter and just get in people's good graces. But the issue with that is people are already looking at him as a shield. They see him as someone that they need to take with them to merge, and then let him become the damage. Like he can be the one that can take shots and be under fire from everybody else, and then get burnt and go home. They are going to use BT to their advantage. So while BT may have this cult kind of circled around him currently, it's not going to take long until BT becomes the center of attention from the whole entire cast and gets voted out. It would not surprise me in the slightest. And I think a lot of them are kind of expecting that. And I think that main person is Maddie. Maddie knows for sure that BT is that person that she wants to hide behind and utilize to her advantage. And that's really smart on her end, you know? BT is one of those people that either you're going to be in with and you work with him, or you don't and you go home. I don't want to compare him to somebody, but it really does give me the vibes of George from Heroes vs. Villains currently on Australian Survivor. It was like, if you are not working with BT, you are gone. You are going home.
Mm-hmm.
So
Can you give it to me in terms of freedom units and not Australian Survivor?
No, I can't. I'm sorry.
Russell, I'm gonna be real. Can I be real now? Russell Hantz, like
No.
US, like a little bit to a degree. I think BT has the social game that Russell does not, but and I don't know. I'm in my COVID haze, so call me out on it if I'm wrong. But
You're wrong.
Thank you. I needed to hear that.
You're welcome.
I don't know. I really like, especially reading BT's confessionals, and he was like every day sending memes and messages to his his private chat, his host chat. He's like an Energizer bunny, you know, and it is just go 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 with BT, and it is just constant. And like you said, Shane, like you're either with him or you're against him, and I think BT definitely has that very much like that cutthroat energy. But is also, I think, likable enough to make it work, at least for a while. Like, you have several people, like Rob, for example, like has pointed out, it's like BT's great for now, and then later on, we'll see where we stand with BT. But
yeah,
Fo adds on to that point about BT. He's so unorthodox, but at the same time, so sincere about it. Like, he's so straight up about what he's trying to do, and I think it makes people feel weirdly safe about him. I'm almost reminded, for a Destino reference, of Alex W. in a way. Alex W. having that very aggressive early game. It worked out for him both times, quite frankly. It worked out.
Yeah, I think, thinking about, I'm just imagining BT and Alex being on the same season. I don't know what would happen. I think all hell would break loose. I think the ground would split open, and they'd both come out with, like, their devil horns ready to, like, burn the whole camp down, you know?
I feel like that would be a power duo, though.
I don't know if they'd work together well. I feel like they'd clash, and it'd be, like, two sides, both of them trying to lead different sides.
I feel that way, too. Like, I think, especially because of that need for control from BT, I don't think it would work out. I think they work better with someone who's able to, like, be... they need someone who's going to complement them. You can't, I think, put two just such chaotic presences together, because eventually it's just going to fall apart.
How do you think all my alliances work, Z?
I mean, you know what? Looking at it, you didn't win Mount Everest.
That was due to host bias from Tommy. Speaking of, welcome, Tommy. How are you doing today?
Hi, Tommy.
Hello.
I can't Discord today. I'm doing well. I'm just listening in because I'm going to be leaving for dinner.
Well, while
Okay.
we have you, do you have any thoughts on the Finch tribe as a whole that you'd like to add before we shuffle along?
Not really. I still got to read up on things. I'm a little bit behind.
I also feel like you did speak a fair amount on the viewer podcast as well, so for anyone wanting Tommy's thoughts, a lot of them are going to be on there as well if you're interested in that.
We'll be open postseason.
Open postseason. Hashtag Destino. Hashtag Destination.
Hashtag down with Destino.
Hashtag down with
Exactly.
Destino. All right. Well, any other thoughts on this eclectic group of fans?
Yeah, I actually do have one more thought. But you know how Paisley got her first strike this past round? Obviously, she has stuff going on in her life, so I don't blame her necessarily for not being as active. But her luck has kind of been pretty good in terms of the idol hunt, and I think that's something we didn't talk about before we dove into the cast. So I'll kind of talk about it real quick. But the idol hunt this season is actually really fun. It was inspired by Human Survivor's idol hunt, and we kind of put our own twist on it, utilizing combinations for chest and using like idol halves and extra vote halves, and giving these players these opportunities to earn halves of advantages and having to work together, whether that be with someone from their own tribe or the opposing tribe, to then come together and form a full one. And it really does make it so you have to kind of talk about what you're doing on the hunt to be able to utilize what you're finding. And so it kind of pushes people to discuss it more openly. But kind of reeling it back into the newbies tribe and discussing Paisley, she found one of the idol chests immediately in the season, at the start of the season, just very lucky, and she's so close. She's one more guess away from getting the combination correct. If she knows it, she says she knows it, she just has to unlock it, and she'll have half of an idol. My only thing is, will she be able to get the other half? I don't know, because currently BT and Rob are working to they've both found the idol chest and both trying to open that other half. So I think she'll have to either work with Rob or BT to do that, but neither of them are talking about working with Paisley. So it's kind of an interesting situation because she could be walking out with that idol half right now, and it's just gone. So it'll be fun to see.
And also, realistically, there's no way BT or Rob would give the idol to Paisley. They'd be trying to wrest it from her.
You say that you don't think that would happen or it wouldn't happen, but you're talking about BT. Anything
Yes,
can happen with
BT,
BT.
who
BT wants to
the
cause
game.
chaos. That's fair. He could literally ask Paisley, "Give me your half of the idol, and I'll idol you tonight and save you, and we'll all vote you, and you can vote at whoever you want, or like tell her to vote a specific way with him, and make a big move. It could be something as easy as that, going into like a swap or a merge or something like that. Just it's BT of all people. Like he will do anything and make it crazy in his own way.
Yes, but
I mean,
I don't think he'll give up that power, though, right? He's not going to give it all
I
to
don't.
her.
I don't. Actually, I wouldn't say he wouldn't, because
You don't think he wouldn't?
when he was offered, when at the summit, when they were offered to take either a challenge advantage for the tribe or half an extra vote, they could have both taken half the extra vote and formed a full one. They could have totally done that, but they didn't. BT ended up going for the point, and it really saved his ass and his whole tribe. So he gave up an advantage for himself and utilize it for the whole entire tribe. And look how it played out. It saved him. So he may be playing a little differently, but he is still very much chaotic in his own ways. So.
All right.
I mean,
Also, hi.
Hello.
Did you say you're
I'll
high?
be here for like 15-ish minutes.
Hello.
He's
phone?
definitely, because BT has talked about like, oh, maybe recognizing a threat and cutting threats early, and we definitely, like in other seasons BT's played, he has a history of turning on his allies very quickly. Rest in peace, Shane.
I know.
Yeah. So giving up the. So who knows?
BT now. All right then. Any last thoughts?
No, pretty good there.
Yeah.
All right, then. That's the Fans tribe. Now let's go to the tribe that's got a lot more eyes on them from the populace. I want to say it's Alakai. Is that right?
Yeah.
Alakai, the favorites, where we have Sed, Chris, Gavin, Cam, Nat, Neb, Nemo, Sebastian, Specht, and Zephyr. So, what's going on here? How do you feel about this tribe?
I love this tribe. It's gonna be so chaotic, and I don't know who's gonna go first because I feel like there's so many different webs that are being formed around these connections, and there's just I don't even know what to expect. I feel like there's names already being thrown out there, and people are discussing who they want to vote because they're obviously going to tribal first. I don't know what to expect, and I don't even know how to really talk about the dynamics of this tribe. There's little groups forming, but there's not one big alliance, and I think that's what's so interesting. I will say between all of the newbies, all of the favorites returning, I feel like Nemo's kind of put himself into the best position within this tribe. He's really kind of formed a lot of connections with Seabass, Ham. I think it was. I'm trying to think who the other person was. I'd have to pull it up, but Nemo just has people coming to him constantly saying, "Oh, I want to work with you. Let's work together." I think him and Gavin are close now. Who else was it? Ham and Neb have offered deals to work with Nemo. He's been talking a lot with Gavin. He has a connection with Seabass. Him and Seabass are number ones now. So Nemo's in a really good spot. I think Nemo's probably in the best position on this tribe. I think when you flip it and looking at who may be on the bottom, I want to assume Chris is there just because she isn't as social with everybody else. Also, she isn't as dominant in the community as compared to the rest of these people. A lot of these people have played together before, whereas I've only seen Chris and Raja Ampat in season 14. And she doesn't have anybody else from her season on here, so I don't necessarily know who she's going to fall back
Chris
on
played
here.
Survivor Org with Nat, right?
Doing some Googling, seeing what
Was that her?
Yeah,
was
yeah, that's saying Chris, because we had the whole thing with Chris and Jared.
Oh my god, that's right.
And Henry,
I didn't even...
and
That's
me,
so
and
bad for me to
also-
remember.
So
It's wild to think
I
about,
mean, they
but...
didn't meet up in that game, it looks like, but still. That's...
season was it?
Oh, and Sed was there too.
73. Yeah, exactly. Sad and Nat also played her, so it was very interesting.
Yeah, so they played two different orgs together at least.
One,
Sed was on the starting tribe with Chris.
a little earlier in the season, or pre-merge at least,
Yeah.
and not by anybody from this season.
Yep. And that first
So,
merge
yeah,
was
I mean-
tribal anyways.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to see. I just think Chris is kind of in that position that maybe she's not putting enough effort to socialize and get to know everybody, but also she didn't perform very well in the challenge today. And she's just never been the best at challenges. That's okay. Not everybody's great at them. But if you aren't socializing and aren't kind of building those connections, I don't know what else to tell you. You kind of have to be great in one or the other. Strategy, sure, you can be great in two, but if you're not good in social or physical challenges, where's your worth, And so I just need Chris to kind of step it up here. Otherwise, I could see her being one of the first boot, if not first boot this round. Nat apparently is calling out Zephyr in their chat, just being not in the tribe chat, but in her own confessional, being like, "There's a Zephyr in this game. If you're here, let's play. Come out and play." Calling Zephyr inactive. I don't know if that means Zephyr's not been as social with Nat in particular, but I don't think Zephyr's been inactive necessarily. I don't think any of them really have been. But, I mean, that's just kind of what I've noticed. And the only other thing that they'd mentioned is SPKT feels like they're at the bottom of the tribe. They mentioned in their in their confessional the other day that they just aren't connecting with anybody. They don't have that one go-to person. They feel like they'd be connecting with everybody already, and they just haven't. And while, that sucks to hear, I like hearing that because it makes me know that these people have to put in the work to get to know one another. they can't just fall back on previous relationships or pre-game relationships. And that was our goal. That was the goal with casting a lot of these favorites, was we don't want you to just be able to fall back. Like if we cast Chroma, obviously SPKT and Chroma would have linked up immediately. But we don't want that. That's easy. That's boring to watch. We want to see you put in the work. And so to see SPK struggling, yeah, it sucks. Like, I love SPKT. I think they're a great player. I just need to see them put in the effort. And it's kind of telling if you're saying it's difficult to connect with people here. And I'm happy to hear that at the same time. You know, it's very conflicting.
Yeah, it's definitely it's hard because I don't want to see any of these people go because they're all really good players and they've all like done well in their own way on their own seasons. So, and I think especially like going back to that discussion about the fluidity of the tribe, I really like because Chris feels like an easy boot. But I don't know if Chris is going to go home because you have all these people that have these pre-existing relationships, but not really in a positive way. There are several people who have been like, this is the last person I wanted to see on my tribe, where you have like Nat and Seb, like, again, I'm playing with this person again. You know, I mean, you really only have to look at Zephyr's cast intro to really know that the relationship between Zephyr and Seabass is not positive. So you have all, and like you said, you have all these little groups, these duos, these trios that aren't like, they're really close, but there's no one there that has made like a super solid alliance, and I don't know if there is going to be a super solid alliance. I would not be surprised if it more was like a day by day basis with this group. Like, because you have like Seabass and Nemo that are really close, and you have like Cam and Neb that like Neb has talked about, like, oh well, I live really close to Cam, so why don't I just go meet up with Cam like in real life? You know?
Yeah, and then that's what Neb brought up today was like, we live in the same area. I think we might actually meet up, and like, you know, that'd be really cool. There's nothing against that at all in the rules of an org. Like, if you live close to someone, sure, that's great. But obviously, like, we don't want them cheating or whatever, showing each other confessionals and stuff. But I don't think Cam or Neb would do that whatsoever. But it's just so funny to hear that they live close together and they might meet up.
Yeah.
As a sidebar, kind of unrelated, I was in an org with two people who met up, and one of them voted out the other that night.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
So maybe Cam will vote out Neb tonight.
Damn.
Sorry,
hey, I don't think they're meeting right now, but you know.
No. Who knows? I mean, that's kind of the thing with why this vote is going to be so exciting, because I feel like everybody does want to be here. And I feel like Chris is an easier vote, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to land on Chris. Like, you know, there have been multiple people named as potential targets, and suspicions thrown. There was for about 15 the fact that Nat was very much lying about what was going on. I was like, never mind, trust Nat. But there are very many, and then you have Gavin, where there's sort of a thing.
To like reach on that. I don't think that's fair for them to like go after Gavin at all, because like he had no idea he was going to be the tiebreaker. That was BT and Nat's decision. So to lose by 200 points, I don't think he should be targeted or would be necessarily. But like, you never know. It's a game, and like people will use anything to save themselves.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. I feel like it'd be kind of gross if that happened. But I don't know. It's a very interesting dynamic, because there's like a spider web of connections on this tribe that are being built, and there's no obvious main alliance. So it's kind of an opposite from the fans in a way. If you have these two dynamics, one is more kind of solid in terms of you have a majority alliance and a minority, versus you have this really fluid tribe, which is interesting to see, and I'm glad there's that sense of variety in terms of gameplay.
And just real quick, there's only one alliance on the favorites tribe, which consists of Destino Internationals. That's what they're called, and that consists of Nat, Neb, and Seabass, and that's the only alliance we currently have. I do expect maybe one or two more alliances to form over the next I don't know, maybe like 12 hours or so, just with people trying to collect votes to not be on them. Who's going to be in charge of those? I don't know. I feel like Nat might be the ringleader to kind of form those alliances. She was the one that brought in Neb and Seabass into this alliance, but I know Nemo's kind of close now with Neb and Seabass, so maybe we'll get that same alliance. But now we're adding in Nemo and maybe Cam, because Cam's kind of fitting in with that group.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what to expect, but I definitely could see another alliance or two forming. But that's all we have for right now.
Does that trio seem particularly strong and united to you, or is it just like early alliance doesn't necessarily mean much in your eyes?
It's definitely an early alliance. I don't see Neb or Seabass or Nat being long-term players working together. It's definitely one of those connections of, hey, we're all international, let's work together. Cool, great, yeah. And then maybe for the first vote or two, and then we swap, and then it never is spoken in again. You know, it's never going to be one of those core, essentially.
Oh. Because I mean, it was very entertaining watching them at the summit, and they're both these very chaotic, very kind of genuine people, like in a way of like that sincerity that Bo was talking about. Nat has that as well. I say that, and then Nat like straight up lied to the entire tribe what the summit was. But they have very similar energies, very similar. It's very chaotic vibe going on with both of them. So what you said about Nat potentially being a ringleader, I would not be shocked if that were the case.
That makes Nat and Seabass a little more interesting to me, because I would put them as the two like chaotic players on this tribe. So like the fact that they are working together, if they do that long term, that could be a very fun duo to watch potentially. Because like Shane,
Yeah, I mean,
remember
if
how
it works
Seabass
out.
played in Kala Lit, which was it was very much
it was a
move-itis
very.
sometimes, but in a very fun way.
Hey, he made the end. Like he lost by what?
It was just like very wild gameplay that was fun to watch.
Yes, exactly.
So I'd love to see more of that.
What was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say. Oh! I remember now. I think I may have mentioned it. The only name that I'm really hearing right now is like there's like a target is set as targeting Seabass.
Oh.
I don't know why exactly. I have to kind of read through stuff, but like that's the one thing that said like I want to target Seabass right now. Nat has kind of brought up Zephyr's name in her confessional, just saying Zephyr's not as active. Like, where have you been? And I think that's kind of been it. I haven't been reading through all the confessionals quite yet, but those are the two names that I've heard from people, at least in their own confessionals, just being like, where are these people? Or I need to target them. So we'll see what happens. We could have two totally different sides being formed right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Sed might be on the losing side just based off going after Seabass. If you have someone like Nat, who's the chaotic player, the DT of the favorites of the fans tribe, of the favorites tribe, apologies, and you have Seabass, Nat, Neb, potentially Cam, maybe Gavin, all kind of rallying around there. I feel like they could easily pull in someone like Nemo because Seabass is close with Nemo. So then, I feel like Sed's kind of in a losing position right here. They're going to target Seabass. That could be the end of Sed's game. I wouldn't be surprised if Sed tries to push Seabass's game, Sed could be the first boot.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be wild.
So it really depends. I don't know what to expect.
Like I think.
It would. I could see a split vote. I could see something like a 7-3, a 6-4. Maybe not even throws in her extra vote because Nat has. This is something we also haven't talked about. Nat has found in the extra vote halves forming. Nat is really putting in the work.
Like, what were you expecting? Like the rate of finding to be?
I mean, it varies. I mean, there's 24 spots and there's 10 people on the tribe. They can guess every 10 hours. So I never expect all 10 people from their tribe because both tribes have a different hunt. So I don't expect all 10 people from each tribe to be 100% dedicated to searching every 10 hours, setting alarms. It never happens. You have maybe like 2 or 3 people who are consistent with it, and Nat is just one of those people. She is like on the dot, 10 hours, setting alarms, searching, and I'm sure just based off of the information she's kind of getting from other people, whether that be through Seabass, through Neb, or just, if she's playing as this chaotic player and talking strategy and talking about the idol hunt with all these different people on her tribe, she's gaining all this information on maybe where not to be looking, where other people have found nothing, and she's crossing it off her list. And so that kind of narrows down the area for her. And I think she hasn't found an idol clue, but she could have that idol information of like, there's nothing on these spots or nothing with this color emblem, or Nat has just put herself in a good spot to gain information. So she's utilizing it clearly to her advantage, and she's kind of racking up as much as she can. She's power hungry. She wants to play, and she's ready to run the fans tribe.
You'll love to see it.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question kind of off of that. In the case of like Nat and Chris, who currently have things in their possession at this tribal council, with this system, should they be voted out or use them tonight, will they be put back into play?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Interesting.
Gotta leave a little mystery.
So what I'm hearing is undecided. You guys are panicking in host chat right now. What?
Okay, delete all that.
You're a very organized hosting team. How dare you make that a cat?
Interesting. All right then. So, anyone have
Slander.
any other thoughts on the favorite spelled without a U tribe? Notice how I slid that in.
No, I think I'm good right now. I think we've covered a lot.
All right.
Yeah.
Zebum of the ZJ.
And Seabass literally just posted a relationship graphic.
Oh my gosh.
Just literally just now. Or no, it was 7 minutes ago. What?
You know what's funny? It's not a bad read, because Seb is saying that Gavin, SPKT, Chris, and Zephyr are on the outs of this tribe, and he's not really wrong.
No.
They're at least just not on the in, rather.
Yeah, I think that's more. It's weird because there's not really an in. It's not a solidified in. It's a bunch of like duos where one person in the duo has a duo with another person, and that person has a duo with another person. So, and that's what when I say like a web of relationships, it's really where you have like 7 people connected all through like however many 5 like 6 whatever I don't know.
So I have a question on
like
that,
connected.
Shane. You remember the original Crocker tribe? So it was
I
like
can.
Akira and
Let me pull it up.
so it was Akira
The
and
Crocker
Sam
tribe?
and Will and Cam.
Yes.
So is
I'm
that
looking.
sort of the feel of this tribe, where it's like everybody's active, but everyone has different relationships? Is that sort of the feel that's there right now, in your opinion?
Honestly, I don't know if it's like a fair comparison, because those were newbies. Like, a lot of them did game connections. There were some that were more dominant in the CDD.
There were a few. It is worth.
I mean, yeah. Like, to be fair, yes. But I think when you're looking at the favorites tribe here, they all know of each other and know each other, except for Chris. Really, like Chris. I mean, yeah. I guess now looking back at it, I thought Chris was kind of unfamiliar with people, but Chris did play with Nat and Fed technically.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wouldn't compare them.
Well, just in terms of gameplay, like,
that's very difficult to remember that.
Interacting sort of right now, is it sort of like that level of relationships?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. I could see that comparison.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm curious to see how that unfolds, because obviously, if you're comparing it to Wisman's Wood, I mean, best season in Destino history, maybe this will be the one to top it. Who's to say?
Ooh, and one last little fun thing. We had a newbie just find an idol half right now.
Oh,
Wait, where?
Sean.
Oh shit!
Sean.
And Paisley was one guess away, but Sean figured it out.
Man, poor Paisley.
Yeah, Paisley. But, I mean, to be fair, I'd rather it be in Sean's possession than Paisley, who could be going home. So.
Well, maybe
Yeah,
fans will
I say
just
this
win
with
out until
all.
swap.
What was that?
Maybe fans will just win out until swap.
Hey, you never know.
Maybe.
How crushing would that be for
Yeah,
the
I don't know.
lounge?
I mean, to be fair, there is the double coming up in round 3, so no matter what, they'll have to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. That is true. Well, all right then. So, any last thoughts on favorites?
No, I'm set.
Yeah.
All right, so I just have a couple final things before we're done here. So we'll be done in just a couple minutes. So first off, who do you think is going to win this season? After seeing this first round, the whole casting process, who is your single winner pick right now?
I have Seabass as my winner pick, but based on this first round, Seabass could be in danger, so I'm not going to say Seabass for this podcast. I actually might go with a newbie, and I'm going to say Sean. And, not because Sean just found an idle half,
Sean just found the idle
just
half
seeing
and
Sean
Shane's
not
on
be
the train.
part of that core alliance, but also being but being someone who is still well connected with the majority of the newbies, I think Sean's going to have that ability to connect and really socialize to the right people and connect with the right people, and not also I don't think he's going to be afraid to make moves to flip if he needs to save himself. I think he's willing to do whatever he needs to do, and he talked about it earlier in his confessional, but he's thinking of playing a more villainous game this time around. He's played an org before, I don't know how many, but he's mentioned having been a villain in a previous season, and he feels like, hey, maybe now is the time to also be a villain again. Villains have more fun. And I could see Sean being the less chaotic villain compared to someone like BT. So, we shall see. We shall see. But I'm no Sean.
All right, Z? Who you feeling?
It's so funny you said Sean because I was honestly also thinking about saying Sean.
Sure.
Because I had Cam at the top of my rankings, and I still think Cam could pull it out. But I also feel like Cam has that reputation of people know Cam, and I worry that she might get meta targeted for that. Which God forbid. But because that's never fun. But I don't know. I think Sean could do it. I think there are a lot of real dark horse picks on the favorites. Not on the favorites, on the fans tribe. People like Sean, like Rob, who could really make a deep run, especially considering the context of this season of it being fans versus favorites, where you have really big players like Maddie and BT on the favorites who are real, going in all chaos on the fans. Oh my god. COVID people messes your brain up. You have people like BT and Maddie on the fans tribe who are really chaotic, and then you have a whole tribe of people who everybody has their eyes on because they're returnees. So I really do think someone like Sean or Rob could make a really deep run and potentially win out and play a really smart, strategic, under the radar game.
All right, and so with Sean, maybe Rob as winner picks, who is going to be the player of the season? So not the winner, but who's going to play the best non-winning game?
Ooh.
That's difficult. That's really hard to say, especially early on. I feel like that's always determined. Even down to final tribal council, sometimes it's very difficult to narrow that down. So doing it round one is a very unfair question, Poti. But
it's called
just
a
because you
prediction
asked,
game,
I will give
Shane.
you whatever. My prediction.
But also see.
I'm agreeing with.
I don't think Maddie's gonna be my pick, but I do agree with you. What did you say, Poti?
We'll make Z go first next time.
Okay.
Here, I'll pick somebody else.
No, you're fine.
Maddie's gonna get player
No, it's too late.
Changing off.
I do also think Maddie, but I think Maddie could do it. But, man, that is a hard question. Honestly, I think maybe Nemo. No, I take that Seabass. I don't think. I think Seabass could make a really good deep run, but I also don't think that Seabass is gonna win. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
That's fair.
All right. So Z, you're going first this time. This one should be a little on the easier side, I think. Who's going to be the fan favorite? Who's going to win that vote at the end of the game?
Oh God. Fan favorite.
I feel like I can answer this right now and be 100% right.
I know who you're going to say, Poti.
I feel like the answer's obvious to me, and I'm curious what Z's gonna say here.
Probably Cam. I think Cam.
What do you think?
Honestly,
I would have said Cam too.
Yeah, 100% Cam.
In
I
terms
will be
of
shocked
favorite,
if Cam doesn't get it. Cam could go home at this tribal and win
I
my
agree.
favorite.
I agree that she does not have a bad bone in her body.
That's
If we're
not true.
talking
She
about
bullies me.
fan, but it's well deserved. You know,
I disagree
it
with
makes
that.
sense.
I disagree with that.
I disagree with you. Anyways, for the fans though, like if we had to pick one fan, I don't want to.
It is a fan favorite.
wow. I
Wow,
see.
that's
I see what you're making me go first, making me have an original opinion. How dare you? I feel like BT could win fan favorite. I feel like BT. I feel like he has that personality for it, and just is really like very dynamic personality. Like very, you can't look away from BT. He's like a train that's just like going full steam ahead. And it's a very entertaining style of gameplay to watch. And he also has a really entertaining personality as well.
Yeah. I'm not going to agree with you, but I like in terms of who will win fan favorite, but I will say Maddie. I think Maddie did mention something like that during the Casterville. She looked back at the Casterville, noticed that she had the most reacts from the audience, and was like, "Oh, I'm already going to be the fan favorite of the season." And I was like, you know what? I could see it. I could see it happening. You know, expecting it, but I think she is obviously she just played in Manitoba, so she'll have a more familiar recognition with a lot of the community. So we'll see if that stands by the end of the season. But also, I think she's going to be a big enough player that she stands out and makes her she carves her name into Destino history. And I could easily see her becoming a fan favorite.
All right, and one final question. It might be a bit of a thinker, but what will be this season's legacy? So, for example, we have a season like Raja Ampot. Its legacy being the sort of split vote tribals it constantly has. Wisman's Wood's legacy is this just sort of the dynamic of the game constantly being changing every single round kind of stuff. Or you have Shiratoko, which had that very methodical, slow, elite level play with just like really strong players all at the end game. So, what do you think the legacy of this season will be? What is going to be the trend that people will remember this season for?
I'm going to go with I think there's going to be a lot of flipping. I think a lot of people are going to be jumping around, jumping ship, doing whatever they need to do to stay alive. I see a lot of villainous players this season, whether it be on the fans or the favorites. I just see a lot of chaotic energy, and I think it's going to lead to a lot of chaotic gameplay. A lot of people wanting to play idols, play villages, make big moves, you know, try to build up their resume. It just feels like that type of cast. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a slow burn type of season. It feels like it's out the gate. The favorites are going to Tribal Council first. We're going to get chaotic gameplay. I feel like it's already building up to that, and I feel like it really is just going to be. I think I will say the legacy is going to be just chaotic gameplay, lots of flipping, and idle plays at the right time.
I think, too, going along with that, I think it's going to be known for the personalities. I think you have a lot of very strong, like, recognizable personalities and individuals on this cast. And I think look back on it and you're going to remember